Hello and welcome to today's session on finding your career goals. Welcome, and my name is Anthea. A bit about myself: I'm one of the trainers for Google's free skills training program, Google Digital Garage. And today I'm here to help you find your career goals, for you to figure out what it is that you want to achieve in terms of your career or maybe even your business, and actually start taking that next step in order to move forward. Now, my experience is in technology and training. I've got 20 years experience in learning and development, change management, business process management, and also coaching. And I'm specifically offering training around things like digital skills. But in order to get to that point, we need to understand what we're good at. I'm not here alone today, and I'll be joined by Joanne. Now, Jo is in the chat, and you'll find her based on the spanner that is next to her name. She is also one of the Google Digital Garage trainers, and she'll be assisting in today's webinar. So feel free to drop your comments in the chat. Feel free to ask questions in the chat. And between Jo and myself, we'll get all of those answered today. So before we dive into finding out what your career goals are, just to want to go through a little bit of housekeeping. Now, if you're having any challenges at the moment, seeing this video or hearing anything that's going on at the moment, please feel free to refresh your screen. Usually that tends to solve the problem. If you want to engage with us, either dropping a comment or maybe even asking a question, then please do ensure that you have a YouTube account. If you don't have an account, there'll be a link inside the chat box that you can click in order to quickly set up an account, and you'll be able to interact with us throughout the session. Now, this is just one of many different webinars that we have, and there are a variety of webinars that you can access, and Jo will put a link in the chat for you to choose other things to also assist you in your career, such as CV writing, maybe using social media, and maybe your personal brand online. So have a look to see what other training that we're offering and see whether or not that's something that you'd be willing to sign up for, and also get some additional support for you in your career. So let's dive straight in and let's look at what we're going to cover today. So ultimately, what we want to find out is what's the purpose of us being here, right? So let me know in the chat, let Jo know, what is it why is it that you came today? Why did you join today's webinar? What is it that you really wanted to get out of today's session? So we're going to be looking at how you can discover your purpose in terms of your role, your career, or what it is that you're trying to do, as well as looking at a specific way of identifying how you can transform your career. So whether you're happy with what you're doing now or not, that doesn't matter. This is really going to take you through a really great process to help you to figure out what it is that you really want to do next. And then we'll start looking at what steps you can take in order to get to achieve that. So do let us know, what is it you're hoping to get out of today's session, and why you actually wanted to come in today. So there are some free career certificates. So again, if you're somebody who is trying to further your career, you can actually get some additional free training from Google. So they offer what's called Google Career Certificates. This can be in a variety of different things. It could be, project management, UX design, IT support even, or maybe you're interested in data analytics. Either way, there are a variety of different certificates that once you've completed that training, you'll get a certificate from Google, which is brilliant because that's something you can put on your CV, which will help to boost that in your next job or role or whatever it is you're looking for. So before we get stuck in, just want to say a few hellos. We've got Gerardo from Mexico City. We've got Mariam from Pakistan. We've got Melisha from Sri Lanka. We've got Vinod. So hello, everybody, and welcome. We've got Amantha from Sri Lanka as well. So we're very much in a kind of global space here, which is brilliant. So let's get stuck in. Now, just be aware that this is a very, very interactive session. This is not somewhere that you just come and you watch and you say this was great and then you walk away. This is about making real change in your life. So what I want you to do is make sure that you have gone to grab a notepad and a pen. Notepad and a pen. Okay, so there'll be certain pauses that we'll go through across today's session where I'm going to be asking you to undertake certain activities and actually write those things down. Because when we write them down, we're able to be more committed to achieving them. So go and grab your pen and paper and we'll get stuck in. Now, the first thing I want to really kind of, to go through is really just getting you to start thinking from a place of fulfillment. So what I want you to do is think back to when you had a job. It could be one that you were paid for. It could be something that you volunteered for. Maybe it was a specific task that you used to do. Now, I want you to think back to that time and really figure out how fulfilled were you in it. So I want you to really just pick the time that you felt most fulfilled with what you were doing. You felt like this was something that was really rewarding and that you really, really enjoyed doing it. You felt completely fulfilled. Now, this could be what you're currently doing. It could be what you did in the past. But ultimately, I just need you to think about the time when you were most fulfilled. What were you doing? What was happening around you? And how much was your fulfillment based on money? Right? Money is one thing that we generally tend to get jobs for. But again, if you're thinking about something where you did a volunteering thing, or maybe it was a task that you did, maybe money wasn't the driver for you at that point. So why was it that you were fulfilled? And anytime I'm asking you these questions as we go through, please do put your answers in the chat. We'd be really pleased to see what you're all coming up with. Now, when we look at some kind of statistics around this, 3 out of 10 workers in the UK do not believe that they have good prospects for career development. So when we actually think about the fact that we spend, on estimate, a third of our lives working, do we really want to be a statistic? It's really important for us to find ways to find fulfillment in the things that we're doing, so that the time that we're spending feels like we're gaining something from it too. And again, this doesn't necessarily have to be money. So let's look at this. How do we actually break this down? Now, what does fulfillment mean to you? Now, fulfillment is going to mean different things to different people, but there is a process for helping you to evaluate how you figure out whether or not something is fulfilling. And so there's 3 key elements to a job that will help you to understand whether or not you are feeling fulfilled. And we're going to start off by breaking them down, and then we'll go into each section in more detail. And again, I'm going to be asking you to go through a series of activities so that you're able to, write this down and figure out what this means for you. Now, the first thing is to really figure out something that you enjoy doing. That's something that you find pleasure in. It could be a hobby of yours. Maybe you enjoy cooking. Maybe you enjoy going for a run. Maybe you enjoy swimming. It could be something sports related. It could be driving cars, but something that when you wake up, you really enjoy doing this thing. And it's not anything that anybody has to ask you to do or remind you to do. Because you enjoy it so much, it's just something that naturally comes to you. Now, the second step, or the second element of this, is to figure out what you're good at. Now, are you actually good at the things that you enjoy doing? Is it something that's natural to you? Or maybe it's something that over time you've acquired skill. Maybe you've taken time to get some training. Maybe you've been practicing. Maybe you've watched videos, read books, just tried to master your craft. So think about, what are the things that you are good at? And again, feel free to drop these into the chat as well. So the first element is, what do you enjoy doing? The second is, what are you good at? And then the third thing is something that people value. Now, the idea behind this is that maybe there's a market for it. Maybe, for example, let's say gardening, right? That's maybe something that people don't enjoy doing. Maybe it's something that they are good at, but maybe it's not something that they want to pursue. And so what they're happy to do is actually pay for somebody else to come and do that service for them. It's a bit like getting your car cleaned. You might enjoy doing that once in a while, but do you want to make that your job? Possibly not. But there is someone who is passionate and interested. They enjoy doing it. They're good at it. And they understand that the market has a place for it. And so therefore, it's something that people value. And so when we combine these three areas, we're really able to see how we can find a way to ascertain our career goals, the things that we are passionate about, enjoy doing, we're good at, and that people will pay for. So here are some examples. Something that you are doing is something that is fun, right? If it's something that you're good at, it could be something you've practiced over time. And something that people value may not necessarily be for you. The first two could be related to you, but the last one may not. And so what we're looking at is the sweet spot in the center, something that encapsulates all three of those areas that helps you to see essentially where the magic happens. It's a skilled hobby. It could be a boring job. It could be a low-skill job. But somewhere in the midst of all that, you get to find something that people would be willing to pay for. And again, this could be in your career, in terms of a job that you're doing, or it could be your ability to understand what you need in order to start a business. So what would you say is the top motivator at work? Drop in the chat. What do you think is the top motivator at work? What is it that people generally feel the most motivated by whenever they are going to either apply for a job, or they're working in their job, or maybe that's the reason that they would consider leaving their job? Let us know. What is the top motivator at work? Now, let's understand that, of course, money is not the only thing that we need, right? We need it to a certain degree to ensure that the basics of what we're doing, food, shelter, water, those things are provided. But once we go beyond that, what else is there? What's the thing that we really want to have in order to help us keep striving to become better, to grow, to learn, to just do more? Shiraz is saying good communication. Vinod is saying trying to be updated, right? So what we say here is recognition of work. Now think about when you're at work. Yes, there's a great deal of money that could be involved, but at what point is money no longer enough? Money is important to meet the basic needs, but is it enough to keep you going? So recognition of work is the ability to be called out for the things that you're doing, for the contributions and the sacrifices and all of the challenges that you're overcoming, to be recognized by others. And so this is a really great opportunity for you to start thinking about what other things will motivate you when you're looking for your next career. So does anybody have any questions? I'm just going to check. So just while we're waiting for any questions, either pop them in the chat, let us know. Vinod has said he felt most fulfilled when trying to help people use new technologies and make sure even people are up to date with the tech, and mostly satisfied by helping, especially in technology. That is brilliant. You know the thing that makes you feel most fulfilled. That's great. And there's another Joe in the comments who's mentioned that she's most fulfilled when when working to help people, whether that's improving processes, helping to communicate diversity, equity, and inclusion commitments, or coaching people to improve their writing. Brilliant. So this is great, really great start. And thank you so much for posting in the chat, because this is what it's all about. It's about identifying the things that make you most happy and fulfilled in the jobs or the business or whatever it is that you are doing, so that you can continue to look for those things as you move forward. Okay, so it doesn't look like there's any questions at the moment. So note that we have more pauses going along. So please stay engaged, keep posting in the chat. Make sure you're doing answering your questions in your notebook, and answering the activities in your notebook, and let us know if you have any questions. Okay, so let's move on. So what we're going to do now is break down each of the elements from the Venn diagram and start to look at how we actually go about getting the answers to those things. Now, bear in mind, this is where I really need you to start working with me. Okay, so this is how we go about uncovering your career goals. We take it one element at a time and we break it down, and we start to look a bit closer, dig a little bit deeper, just to understand what are the things that you enjoy doing, and therefore how you can find those things in your career. So the first thing that we're going to do is jump straight into an exercise. Now, what I want you to do is I'm going to show you a list of phrases, and I want you to pick out the words or the phrases that you enjoy. Okay? So note that there is no right and there is no wrong answer for this. It doesn't matter how many you have, but this has to be very personal to you. You have to choose the phrases that really mean something to you. When you are at work, which of these things do you most enjoy? And so I'll just give you a minute or two just to kind of go through and catch up with this. And so while you're choosing these, just be aware that this is not a random list. This was actually taken from some work that Professor Edgar Sheen did, who's been working on this basically since the 70s. They've gone through a series of studies to really understand what people find most fulfilling and what they enjoy at work. So this list has been taken from that in order to provide you with a list of the most common. There could, of course, be some additional ones that are not on the list, but ultimately, this is where we want to start today. Okay, so pick out the ones from this list that you enjoy doing the most. Right, so once you've written that down in your notepad, please feel free to just drop a couple of the phrases into the chat, just so you can see for comparison how different, what people find enjoyable happens to be. So the next thing is, it's great really to understand, what is it that I really enjoy doing? But we have to start to figure out how we can use this information to benefit us in terms of how we pursue our careers. So the next thing is to look at order of preference. So going back to your list, can you now look at the ones that you had selected? Again, it could be 2, it could be all 8, doesn't matter. But rank them in order of importance. What's the number one thing that you most enjoy doing? And then what's the second thing? And then what's the third thing? If you have more than 3, that's fine. I only need the top 3 at the moment. And then you have an opportunity to rank them in priority order about what's the most important. If you have less, that's fine. But the main aim here is for you to really just rank them. So again, I'll give you a minute to go through that. Tatiana's saying in the chat that her main one is helping others as she works in a hospital school. So that's brilliant. Not only is she currently doing what she enjoys, she's very clear about the thing that she enjoys. Sometimes we can be in a working environment and not really understand what aspect of that job we actually enjoy. So this is a really great exercise to understand and really take a moment to sit and think about, what is it that I really enjoy? Where is it that I feel most fulfilled? And is that something that I've been doing or I'm currently doing? Okay, so now we've got our top 3 things that we enjoy doing. I want you to go back and pick out the phrases that describe what you do now or have done previously. So for Tatiana, helping others is what she does now. Okay, so look at the list again. Which of these, your top 3, or all of them if they're not currently included in your top 3. But have a look and let us know and write down, which of these are you currently doing in your role now or have done in a previous role? Again, I'll give you a minute for that. So Shiraz is saying being an expert, secure and stable work and solving problems. So Shiraz, when have you done that? Is that you're doing that currently? Has that been things that you've done in a previous role? Vinod is saying helping others, solving problems and having ideas. And Joe is saying helping others, having ideas and being an expert. So you see how there are things that we enjoy doing and the importance is different for all of us. So again, I just want to reiterate that there is no right answer for this. This is all about you tapping into yourself and figuring out what you really enjoy doing. Okay, so last part of this exercise then is for you to think about the differences between your current list and your ideal list. That very first list where we picked out everything that you enjoy doing versus what you're actually doing. How different are they? How much of the things that you enjoy doing are you actually doing now or have done? Or are these aspirational? The idea here is that we need to bridge the gap. You know, everyone is different. And in a healthy workplace, there are a variety of different people who enjoy different things. And we've seen that by some of the comments that we've had in the chat. So it's really important for you to think really honestly about what is it for you, right? Because we have to not live to other people's expectations for what they think we should do and really seek out the things that we truly want to do. We have hobbies and passions and things like that for a reason. So seek those out and then prioritize them and figure out how you can do that more than everything else. And if there is a huge amount of difference between what you're doing now and what you really want to be doing, then that is essentially where the work is. It's about figuring out how to bridge the gap and how to get into the kind of roles that will help you to do more of what you enjoy doing. So again, if you've got any huge differences, let us know in the chat. Otherwise, just, reflect on this after today's webinar as well. So we're doing another pause for questions. Doesn't seem like there are any at the moment. So do make sure that you're popping any questions that you may have in the chat and we will be able to answer them. Okay. I have a feeling there's going to be more thinking than asking in this one. And again, this is really about how you figure out what works for you. There'll still be a couple of opportunities for you to ask questions, so don't feel you have to force anything if you're not ready. Okay, so let's move on. So we've now looked at what do we enjoy doing? What are the things that we really enjoy doing, but maybe aren't quite doing that in our current role, right? So we now have an idea about what is it that we want to be doing. So now the next thing is looking at, well, what am I good at? Okay, so these just generally tend to be the things that you've done and practiced and gotten better at. Now, the interesting thing about this, and again, even just drop in the chat your opinions around that is, what is it that makes you good at something? Do you think that it's something that's just natural, or is it something that you have to, intentionally practice to get better at? I'd be interested to know what you think. So our own individual perceptions about what our strengths are generally not always reflected in our actual abilities. And, you generally tend to think that just because we get better at about something, that we'll feel better about how we do over time, but that's not actually the case. Now, I don't know if any of you have heard, but there is something called the Dunning-Kruger Effect. And essentially, that describes how human beings are notoriously bad at knowing their strengths from their weaknesses. Now, the interesting part was that he kind of looked at, how our perception of our abilities kind of tended to change over a period of time. Now, when you think about this, and it's only because there's a microphone on screen that I've kind of gone to this, but let's imagine that you were somebody who wanted to learn how to sing, right? You're just completely starting out. So you're at step one right now. You are just starting out, and at this point, you know that you're probably no good, right? You maybe you sing in the shower, and you can just about hold a note, and now you want to, become the next Mariah Carey or the next, Ed Sheeran. But you start singing, and maybe your voice cracks. Maybe you can't hold the note for very long. Maybe your breath doesn't carry, and so you started, but you're no good. So now let's imagine that you have learned a little bit more about maybe how to, manage your breath, to, to learn the different keys. And now all of a sudden, because you've gone from not being great at something to learning a little bit about it, which has changed how much you've grown, you think you are absolutely fantastic. You are ready to go on the X Factor, Britain's Got Talent, whatever those shows are. You are ready to step in front of your crowd and just give it your all. Now, the problem is you don't actually know enough. There is so much more to learn. It's just that the jump from where you were in terms of your competence to where you are now has changed slightly, but your confidence has grown humongously. And what generally tends to happen is that at this stage, even though we don't know a lot, we are completely overestimating what we are capable of doing. And so our confidence exceeds our competence, and we think that we are much better than we are. And so it comes as no surprise that when we go and step out in front of people and want to give our number one Billboard chart performance, that we don't get the response that we're looking for. And that's because we are not yet competent. And so because of that, what happens is our confidence takes a dip. We realize that we're not as good as we actually thought we were. And so your competence can improve because you still continue to do the work. You still try to get better. You still try to master your craft and really learn more about what it is that you are good at, what you're really enjoying, and practicing to be the best about what you can do. But you know that there's still a lot to go. And because you made the mistake of being overconfident before, you try not to make that mistake again. So your confidence goes down. Now, note, this can actually work in the opposite way. You could actually be better than you think you are, but because your confidence took a blow, you underestimate how good you really are. And so you've finally come to this stage where you match your confidence with your competence, because you've put in the work. You sacrifice the things to make your priorities the most important thing that you focus on. You've watched the videos, you've practiced, you've sought help, you've asked for feedback. You've done all of the things that will help you be better. And because you can feel the change in yourself from when you first started, that zero competence and zero confidence place, you now realize that your confidence can start to be boosted. And you understand where your strengths lie. You understand what you're already good at, and you work on what you're not so great at. And so therefore, it starts to really balance out. And so that's how you become good at what you do. And you're more likely to correctly evaluate your ability because you've seen what it's like to be overconfident and undercompetent, and what it's like to be competent but not confident. And so now you're more aware about how well you are progressing. And so, what I want you to do really is kind of think about that example and how you can apply that to the things that you might be good at, how you can look at how you can get better. Because sometimes we are good at things and we don't even recognize it. So, what I want to do is look at an exercise that will help you to identify your strengths. So, first thing, and again, is make a note in your notepads. Pick 3 people that you know very well. 3 people that you know very well. Preferably not family. Families can be biased at times because whatever they think, sometimes they don't want to hurt your feelings, or they want to say things that they think you may want to hear. So just pick somebody, a friend, a neighbor, maybe somebody at work. But essentially, they just need to be somebody that you can trust to give you an honest and open opinion. 3 people that you know well. Now, once you've done that, I want you to imagine that you are speaking to one of those trusted people. And these are people who need to know you well, fairly well, right? So pick people who know you well. Now, so for example, if I was to ask my friend, so what we'll do is we'll break this down into 3. There are questions on this slide that I want you to answer. And the idea is that your name will go where the X's are. Okay, so the first thing is to think about those people. What's the first one? What does one of those people always ask for help with? So for me, I might say, I always ask Anthea for help with my fitness plans. All right, I always get asked for fitness advice because aside from this, I also teach fitness, help people with weight loss and stuff like that. So it's something that people naturally come to me and ask questions about. So this is where people are asking for help. Now, the next one is, what do you know a lot about? Or what do people think you know a lot about? Again, for me, Anthea knows a lot about technology. Now, I know a lot about certain types of technology, but people think I seem to know about all technology. So they generally come to ask me about the latest application or how to do something in an application. And generally, I can usually find out how, even if I don't know myself. So again, what do people think that you know a lot about? Once you've written these down, feel free to drop them in the chat and let us know. And then the last one is, what can people always essentially rely on you for? You can always ask Anthea about the latest to help you choose a movie. I'm a movie fanatic, so I pretty much know all of the good movies to see. So if anyone's thinking about going to the cinema, or maybe they're trying to go to an event, I probably know the best one to go to. So they can always ask me for that. Right? So just start to get your mind thinking about, what do people generally tend to come to you for? Because this will help you to figure out what your strengths are. People will only ask for your help if they think you can help them. So that means there's something that you do, something you possess, something that you have that makes others think that you are the go-to person for that. So I love this exercise because it really just helps you to really start to hone in on what people are thinking about you. So let me give you some ideas about what we're talking about. Again, make up your own, but if you're struggling, you can have a look on the screen. So when we're thinking about asking for help, right? Is it knowledge sharing? Investigating? Is it using your hands? Is it planning? Is it motivating others? What do you generally tend to know about, a lot about? Could be coaching. It could be writing. It could be getting creative or putting structures in place. What are people always asking you to do? Have deep conversations. Motivate others. Operate machines. Right, so here are just some examples. And again, this list is not exhaustive. There's so many that you can include beyond what's on screen. But this is really just to give you an idea about what you could do. So again, make sure you're writing these down in your notebooks. Of the people that you've chosen who know you well, what are they always asking you for help with? What do they think you always know a lot about? And what are they always asking you to do because they believe they can rely on you for that? Okay, so while you're finishing that, we'll take another pause for questions. Okay, so we've got Shane has asked, when you say secure and stable work, is that in a positive or negative way? I actually think that it's down to the individual, right? So pretty much everything that you see is going to be based on your perception of it. So I think this goes back to the list of things that you enjoy doing, right? So if you enjoy secure and stable work, I would look at that as a positive thing because you're adding the word enjoy next to it. So you wouldn't necessarily enjoy something negative. So I would see that as a positive thing. So the main thing is to say secure and stable work is something that you enjoy doing. So whenever you are getting a job, once you've had a job and you're looking back at the kind of roles that you've had, one thing that you'll probably find in common with all of those is that the work felt secure and stable. You didn't feel like it was a temporary thing that you would probably have to, could be fired, let's say, or made redundant at any given moment. Secure and stable work is something that's important to you. So hopefully that answered your question. If not, drop another one in the chat and I can help to clarify. Okay, so Tatiana is saying, how can you use your hobbies to become your career? So brilliant question. And it feels like you already knew what was going to happen in today's session. We will actually get to that and kind of see how we piece things together. But essentially, remember, going back to that first diagram where I showed you all three with some examples, what we're looking for is that magic sweet spot in the middle. So we have to figure out, we've looked at, what do I enjoy doing? We've just looked at what am I good at? Now we need to look at what people will value. And off the back of that, you can then figure out what is the common theme around all of those things that you can then use in order to further your career. And then another question that's just come in is, what if the things you know a lot about don't necessarily match up with the things that people ask for help with? Does that matter? So this is Joe asking. So yes and no. In a way, it depends because at the moment your question is based on what people are asking you for. We are looking at such a small segment. We're essentially looking at 3 people that know you well. And that's not really enough to make a judgment as to whether or not that is something that you could do or might not do in your business or in your career. So the idea is this helps you to get a sense of what people are already seeing in you and the potential value that you offer. However, when we start to look at what people value, you might find that you could do research to figure out if this is something that the market wants, right? Because the people that you know well may not be the ones who buy from you or may not be the ones who help you to figure out what exactly it is that you are going to be doing career-wise, but you can go and do research and then that will help you to kind of lead you in the right direction. So hopefully that helps. But when we kind of get further into this, to the remainder of this session, you'll probably start to see how these things all tie together. Okay, so let's move on and we'll have another opportunity for questions again shortly. But let's finish up with the final piece of this puzzle. What do people value, right? So this is something that there is a market for. So again, going back to the questions that were asked, is we're just looking at a small segment. And you might find that not everything is matching up at the moment. And that's absolutely fine because it's just important for you to get this written down. But what we will then do is start to look at what people might pay for, what market is available for these things. Okay, so let's look at a few different case studies to work through this. Now, these are people who essentially have found fulfilling work based on their passions. And so there's three stories that I'll share with you that kind of give you some context around how you can figure out what people are willing to pay for. Now, in Abigail's perspective, she actually worked in technology at a large entertainment business. And what she used to do is she used to actually bake cakes and bring them in. So, you know, those people who generally always have donuts or cakes on the days that you are trying to eat healthier. She was one of those. So she'd bake them and she'd bring them into work. And people loved them so much because of the feedback. It's so good. People really look forward to them. They always went when she made them. Now, because that was a passion of hers, something that she enjoyed doing, she made them, right? And she got better at it because she was practicing. So she got good at it. And then she realized that there was value in this because people were commenting about how good what she was producing was. And therefore, that the fact that they were willing to pay for it. So because of that, what she ended up doing was started with some digital training with Google, actually, to set up her business. So she set up Abby's Pantry, which started in London and has kind of now moved to Scotland. But essentially what she did is she took this skilled hobby of hers and made it into a business. And now she sells cakes and all sorts of things. And she's now taking additional Google sessions in order to help her find new customers and make her business more visible. So for something that people just sometimes think is just that hobby, that thing that they do because they love to do, you can actually turn that into something more meaningful. Do you have to start your own business? No. But it could be that you want to, decide that you want to change your career and become a chef. But until you understand the thing that you really enjoy doing, it's difficult to take that next step. So let's look at the next one. We've got Claire and Rachel. Now, this really is a way of kind of showing how you can think way beyond what you currently do and how that can be the key to finding your future, right? So Claire and Rachel are friends and they set up a website called How Do I? Claire was actually a barrister and Rachel was a sonographer, essentially someone who does diagnostic imaging like ultrasounds and things like that. Now, they went on a How Do You Start Your Own Business course, and then they set up How Do I? And the idea of How Do I is that it's essentially a directory to help people of all different sexual orientations find wedding suppliers and wedding planners, because they realized from weddings that they went to and, challenges that people were having is that people couldn't always find a supplier or a wedding planner. And so they used the information that they had, realized that there was a market for it and brought it all together so that they can create a business. And they have attended a one-to-one mentoring session with one of the Google Digital Garage trainers. They've attended writing for social media, an introduction to digital marketing, and they've also done a Start Your Business course. So they got better at it because they understood that the marketplace had some need for it, that people found value and that they were willing to pay. And so we also have Shaquille. Now, Shaquille, he was actually made redundant from by his employer, which was a kind of, a bit of a setback, but it helps you to start thinking and evaluating your career. So instead of saying, I'm going to let this defeat me, he decided to really figure out what he was good at. And so he said, I enjoy HR. and I'm going to work in HR. And so he took that next step and decided to work independently. And then he started working directly with people who were influential, and he used a hashtag called hashtag catch up over coffee on LinkedIn. And so because of that, his popularity, his reach has all grown, and he's now connecting with, 1,500 connections that help him find clients. And so in the last 6 months, because he's been focusing on getting better at improving his online profile, he's expanded his network from 200 to 1,500 LinkedIn connections. And he pretty much appears on 2 Google search entries for 2 to 3 pages. So the digital garage was really useful because it helped him with his business name. So originally he called it 4.8 for whatever reason. But now he's there, he's got catch up over coffee, and he's communicating with his clients on a daily basis, growing his business, and most importantly, doing something he loves to do. So this is where you come in. This is a framework that you can use to consider what your idea might be. So who would find value with what you're good at and something that you enjoy? So think about how you could make a living out of something that you are already good at and something that you enjoy. Which job or profession requires what you've got? Right? Remember, you can do cross-skilling, right? Just because you worked in HR in finance, it doesn't mean that you can only do HR in finance. You've got finance industry skill knowledge. You've got HR skills. So these are transferable. Which kind of businesses could use your skills? What kind of people might want to pay you to do something or to make something? So again, in your notebooks, just make a note of one place that you think you could be valued. And again, after the session, come up with a much longer list. But, it could be, again, that you get some support from people that you know who can see things that you are good at that maybe you can't quite see from yourself. So the best way to do this is to start with a really long list. Don't filter it. Just write every single thing down and then go back and then figure out one thing or one place where you feel that you could be valued. And so remember that none of these things are things that you should do. You're just identifying what you could do. And at some point, you'll get to a state where you say, right, now I can move on. So again, people will find value in things that you may be good at and also things that you enjoy. So what job, what profession, what business, where's the value? That's how you link these all together to figure out what is the thing that I can do that people would be willing to pay for. Okay, so think about how you can also explore some of your career options by doing I mentioned earlier, you can do research, right? So if you've ever looked for a job using a job search, an online job search before, it's pretty much similar to that. If you have used an online job search before, please just drop a yes in the chat and let us know. Also, let us know which job searches you used, because it's actually getting more useful for jobs to be only listed online rather than an offline method. So when you think about what value you could potentially offer, what kind of businesses, what profession, that kind of thing, do a job search, because it will tell you what people are looking for. It will show you that there is a market for specifically the skills that you possess. So you can quickly answer that. If you're worried about what is it that I enjoy and what is it that I'm good at, but maybe I'm not actually likely to find somewhere that's willing to pay for it, just do a job search. You can go on LinkedIn, do it, Charity Job, Indeed, Monster, even Google. You can search for jobs directly through Google. So start to put in some of those keywords that relate to the things that you enjoy doing, the things that you are good at, and that you think people might find value in, and see if there's any jobs that are in relation to that. Then look at the job description and look what it's asking you to do. Are these things that you might enjoy doing? Start picking those up apart and then start doing more job searches for things that relate to the things that you are actually going to enjoy and want to do. And then that's how you start to figure out what role is out there that is going to help you to further your career. And again, if you're somebody who also wants to start a business, again, you can still look for the jobs because that shows that there is a market for that. And essentially, those are the people who could potentially be your customers. And so there are so many different sites that advertise jobs in the UK. So again, just make sure you're doing your searches, keep checking. You can even use the LinkedIn job search to specifically find people, maybe contact recruiters and ask them questions. If you want to volunteer to get experience in the thing that you enjoy doing and maybe good at, but maybe don't have the experience yet, volunteer. Charity job is brilliant for that. Do some local work, gain that experience, speak to people, understand why they do what they do and how you can help them more. Do It is also another great platform for volunteer opportunities. And maybe also note that you can do things remotely now. So you're not limited to finding roles that are specifically in your area, in your location, or offline. You can gain experience being online. But there are so many options, so many platforms that you can look at. So again, really, this is about pulling together what you've already discovered about yourself and what you enjoy and going online to do some research to figure out who needs it. Because I can guarantee you the thing that you want to do, someone needs it. It's just a matter of finding it. So how do we actually get to the point where you reach your goal? Now, I want you to answer each of these 4 boxes. You may not get to finish them all now. So do make sure you make a note of these so that you can complete these later. Now, the main thing is that what you want to do is write down different goals that will help to keep you on track. So what are you going to do today? What are you going to do in the next week? What are you going to achieve in the next month? And what are you going to have achieved in the next year if you follow all the steps before? Because when you think about changing your entire career, maybe starting a business or, going for a completely different job, it can feel really overwhelming. But when you take a pause and realize that there is a process to this, and by taking that first step, you get one step closer. In a week, you'll be closer. In a month, you'll be closer. Break it all down and figure out what each of those steps look like for you so that you can get to your next level in this journey towards your career goal. So today, next week, this month, and this year, write all of those down. Write all of those things down and revisit it after today's webinar and really sit and think about the specific action steps that you're going to take. Okay, so we've got our final pause for questions here. Right, so Shiraz is asking, or apologies, Chiraz, if I've mispronounced that. If you feel uncomfortable at work, how can you ask for some improvement in the right way? So I'm assuming, correct me if I'm wrong, that this is relating to you not enjoying work because maybe someone's making you feel uncomfortable. So the best way to do it, and I think Joe's already said, have a private meeting with your manager or use anonymous channels to raise concerns. Absolutely right. Part of you being in your working environment is to build a good enough relationship with your manager to be able to come to them with these kind of challenges. So one question that I would say for you to ask yourself is, why do you feel uncomfortable? Is it external or is it internal? Now, when I say external, is it because there is someone or something making you feel uncomfortable? Or is it internal in the sense that it's your thoughts? You think you are uncomfortable, maybe because you are doing something that's new for you. And generally, when we are stepping outside of our comfort zone, we can feel unsettled. But it's not necessarily the environment or the people in it. It's just because we are doing something new. So take a moment to really sit with that question and figure out, what is it that's making you uncomfortable? Is it external or internal? And once you identify that, you'll be in a better position to figure out what the next step is. If it's external, then yes, you definitely need to speak to somebody about that, because as I said earlier, we spend a third of our life at work. You want to be in a place that you feel comfortable. If it's internal, then this is about you building your confidence, you understanding that learning is a great thing. This is about having a growth mindset and saying that I'm going to welcome change, because change is going to be the thing that helps me become a better person. So that's internal work. And you can probably find, motivational YouTube videos and things like that that will help you with your mindset. So hopefully that's kind of giving you a few different steps that you can take. But again, definitely answer that first question. Coolio is asking, what if I don't like the things that I'm good at? There is almost zero overlap in your diagram. So the question I would ask you is, why are you good at them? And the reason I ask you that question is because sometimes we do things because other people expect us to, right? And it's not because we want to. So if you're good at things because other people have expected you to do those things, i.e. go to university and get this degree or get this job, you may be good at them, but you may not enjoy them. So the next thing is to figure out, what can you get better at to replace the things in the what you're good at area, because that's the only difference, right? There are things that you could enjoy doing, but you just haven't had the time to master them because you've been too busy doing things that maybe somebody else wants you to do. So now is your opportunity to really get better at the things you enjoy doing. And then what you'll find is that there'll become more and more overlap the more you refocus your priorities. Okay, brilliant. So I think that's it for questions. So let's look at next steps to wrap up. Okay, so just kind of going back to, what we mentioned at the beginning, is that we essentially have a free Google Career Certificates program. So there's free online flexible training. So again, what we've looked at today really is just a method or a framework for helping you to discover what you enjoy. And what's been brilliant about today is that there are people who've discovered that there are things that they are good at that they don't enjoy, or there are things that they don't enjoy, or there are things that they do enjoy, but they're not doing, right? And this is what this exercise is all about. It's about discovery, about raising self-awareness. The more we can understand how we spend our time and the decisions that we make that allow us to get, navigate through life, it helps us to figure out if we are making the right decisions. So continue to do the work in your notepads around this and really figure out, what is the things that you really enjoy doing, the things that you are either good at now, or if you don't like those things, how you can get better at the things you enjoy, and then start to look at where people can find the value. Do your research and really progress in that way. Again, the Google free certificates are available to help you if you find out that you want to get some additional training in some of these different areas, such as IT support, project management, data analytics, and UX design. So remember, sign up, boost your CV, start to build your confidence, and move closer towards the career goals that you're setting for yourself. So as we are wrapping up today's session, I just want to thank you all for joining us today. We know how valuable time is, and so we appreciate that you spent it with us. I hope that you have been able to really think about things in a different way, and don't judge yourself at all. This is a really great exercise just to know where you are, where you want to be, and how you can bridge the gap. So please do go to google.gle/digital garage feedback to let us know how you found today's session. If you found it useful, please do let us know so we can ensure that we keep putting on sessions like this. But whatever it is that you decide to do, I hope that you enjoy doing it, that you're good at it, and people find value. So until the next time, take care.